Hi friends, today we're going to read the book The Fire Cat, written by Esther Averill. Here's the cover page, and it was illustrated by Esther too. That means she drew the pictures and wrote the book. This was one of my favorite books as a kid. Pickles. Once upon a time, there was a yellow cat with black spots on his fur. His name was Pickles. Pickles was a young cat. His paws were big, and he wished to do big things with them. But where could Pickles find anything big to do? Pickles lived in a barrel. The barrel was all that he had for a home. Pickles' barrel was in an old yard where there was nothing big to do. So what did Pickles do? He ran after little cats. He ran after every little cat that came in the yard. He chased the little cat out of the yard. This was bad thing. But it was all that Pickles could do. Next to Pickles' yard was a house, and in the house lived many cats who called out to Pickles, "You're bad! You can't be our friend!" But Pickles did have a friend in the house. His friend was Mrs. Goodkind. Every day, Mrs. Goodkind would come into the yard and give Pickles something to eat. One day, Mrs. Goodkind said, "Pickles, you're not a bad cat. You're not a good cat. You're good and bad and good. You're all mixed up, cat. What you need is a good home. Then you will be good." Mrs. Goodking picked up the mixed up cat. She took him into her home to live. In Mrs. Goodking's home, there was a pretty chair for Pickles to sit on. There were toys for him to play with. He doesn't look too interested in those toys, though. But Pickles did not want to sit on the pretty chair. He did not want to play with the toys. He ran back to the barrel in the yard, and he began to chase little cats again. Uh-oh, it's starting to be bad again. Mrs. Goodking said to Pickles, "Things cannot go on like this. Something will happen." The next day, Pickles chased a little cat up in the tree. He climbed up after her. Pickles sat up in the tree near the little cat. He would not let her climb down. After a time, the wind began to blow. It blew and blew and blew, and the rain came down hard. It was down harder and harder. At last, Pickles let the little kid climb down to go home. Pickles wanted to climb down too. He wanted to get back into his barrel, but he could not climb down. Sometimes this happens to cats, and it happened to Pickles. Mrs. Goodkind ran to the tree. "Pickles!" she called. "Please come down!" But Pickles could not climb down. Aw, poor Pickles is stuck up in that tree. Mrs. Goodkind ran into her house. Pickles could see her by the window. She was talking on the telephone. She called out to Pickles, "The firemen are coming! The firemen are coming!" A fire truck came up to the street and stopped Pickles at the yard. 3 firemen jumped down off the truck. Mrs. Goodkind came out of her house. She ran to the firemen and pointed up to Pickles. The firemen put the ladder up against the tree, and one of the firemen began to climb the ladder. I sure hope they can get him. The fireman climbed to the top of the ladder. "Come, cat," he said to Pickles. "Let me help you." The fireman picked up Pickles and tucked him into his coat, and then he took Pickles down the ladder down to Mrs. Goodking. Mrs. Goodking said, "The fireman, is this your cat?" "No, Joe," said Mrs. Goodking. "Pickles has no home. He does not want to live with me." "Why?" asked Joe. Mrs. Goodking answered, "My home is too little for Pickles. Pickles is a cat who wishes to do big things, and someday he will do them. Look at his big paws." Pickles put out a paw for Joe to see. "My goodness, Pickles," said Joe. "What big paws you have." Pickles looked at Joe and said one word, "Meow." And Joe could see that Pickles wanted something very much. Joe gave Pickles a pat. "Pickles," he said, "I want to take you to our firehouse. Maybe our chief will let you stay." Joe took Pickles to the chief, who was sitting at the desk. There's the chief. I wonder if he's going to let him stay. There's Pickles and the fireman. "Oh," said the chief, "I know this young cat. He's the one who chases little cats." "How do you know?" asked Joe. The chief answered, "A fire chief knows many things. Just then, the telephone began to ring. "Hello?" said the chief. "Oh, hello, Mrs. Goodking. Yes, Pickles is here. He came with Joe. What did you say? You think Pickles would like to live at the firehouse? Well, we shall see. Thank you, Mrs. Goodking. Goodbye." The chief looked at Pickles and said, "Mrs. Goodking says you're not a bad cat, and Joe likes you. If you live here, if you will learn to be a good fire cat." Pickles walked quietly up the stairs after Joe. Joe and Pickles went into the room where the firemen lived. The men were pleased to have a cat. They wanted to play with Pickles, but suddenly the fire bell rang. The firemen ran to the big pool and went down. The pool was fast to get to their trucks. Pickles could hear the trucks, started up and rushed to the fire. Uh-oh, there they go down the pool. Pickles said to himself, "I must learn to do this, what the firemen do. I must learn to slide down the pool." He jumped and put his paws around the pool. Down he fell. Bump! Aw, poor Pickles fell on his butt. Bumps or no bumps, I must try again, said Pickles. Up the stairs he ran. Down the pool he came, and bump! He tried again, and he bumped every time the fireman came back from the fire. Pickles could slide down the pool. "What a wonderful cat you are," said the fireman. The chief did not say anything, though. Pickles said to himself, "I must keep on learning everything I can." So he jumped up one of his big trucks. He learned to sit up straight on the seat while the truck raced to the fire. "What a wonderful cat you are," said the fireman. The chief did not say anything. Pickles said to himself, "Now I must learn to help the firemen with their work." The next fire he jumped down from the truck. He ran to the big hose, put his paws on it, and ran to help the firemen shoot the water from the flames. "What a wonderful cat you are," said the fireman. But the chief did not say anything. But I think Pickles is doing a good job. The next day, the chief called the fireman to the desk, and he called for Pickles. "Pickles, do you know what's going to happen?" He said to himself, "Maybe the chief does not like the way I work. Maybe he wants to send me back to my old yard." But Pickles went to the chief. At the chief's stead stood all the firemen and Mrs. Goodking. They're all waiting for Pickles to come up, and I wonder what he's going to do. The chief said to Pickles, "I have asked Mrs. Goodking to come because she is your first friend." Pickles jumped up on the desk. "I have something to say to you." Pickles jumped up on the desk and looked at the chief. Out of the desk, the chief took a little fire hat. "Pickles," said the chief, "I have watched you at your work. You have worked so hard. The time has come for you to know that you are our own fire cat." And with these words, the chief put the little hat on Pickles' head. Pickles made friends with all the firemen, but he did not make friends with any of the cats. When cats came to the firehouse, he looked at the trucks. Pickles chased them away. The chief called Pickles to him and said, "A fire cat must be kind to everyone. You must be good to other cats." Little by little, Pickles learned to be good to the cats he met. His friends with him too. He made friends with them too. Then all the cats loved to come to the firehouse. On rainy days, most cats stayed at home, and Pickles sat upstairs with the firemen. On rainy days, he sat there and he thought to himself, "How bad I was when I chased the other cats. Once I chased a little cat up a tree. Oh me, oh my, why did I do that?" Suddenly Pickles heard the chief call out, "Cat in the tree!" Uh-oh. Fireman Joe and two others slid down the pole. Pickles slid down after them. Good thing he learned how to do that. He heard the chief say, "The tree is in the old yard next to Mrs. Goodking's house." Oh, thought Pickles, that's the yard where I lived, and there's the tree. Pickles jumped up on the truck with the three firemen. There he is, sitting. 1, 2, 3 firemen. They rode to the yard, and there in the wind, the rain stood Mrs. Goodking, pointing to the little cat. The fireman put out the ladder against the tree. The ladder scared the little cat, and she ran to a high branch where the fireman could not go. Joe said, "Mrs. Goodking, I don't know what to do." But Pickles knew. He climbed the ladder. There he goes, up to find the little kitten. Mrs. Goodking thanked Pickles. Then she said to him, "I always knew someday you would do big things. Today you have done something big." Pickles waved his paw and said to Mrs. Goodking, "This is only the beginning," and he rode home to the firehouse as a proud and happy cat. The end. I hope you liked that.